Good morning.
Good morning.
I've been talking about Shantideva, the 8th century monk who wrote Guide to the Bodhisattva Way and the chapter on patience, which, as those of you who've been listening to those talks know, that they can be challenging. Is that a good way to put it? And I thought it might be nice to have something that was maybe a little more, I don't know, upbeat. And the other thing is like, I really think that uh, we're all living through a very difficult time, and we're watching a lot of news, and however we're getting our information that, seems to be daily. There's something else happening that's hard to digest or listen to or think about, or how it affects our own lives, or we ask ourselves, what can I do? Or all of those kinds of things that are coming up for us. So the night before last, Jaku and I were, Jaku is my partner and the co-teacher here. Jaku and I were watching YouTube, and we like to watch Stephen Colbert sometimes before we go to night, his little opening monologue. And next to it was this thing called actually it's called, what was the name of it? 8 Japanese Habits That Make a Massive Difference. I think that was the name of the little YouTube video. So I thought, okay, well, that's pretty interesting. Maybe I'll do a Dharma talk about that. It might end up being 2 because I'm not sure how long it's going to take me to do this. Anyway, I changed it to 8 Japanese ways which bring equanimity and joy to life, +1. And I'll tell you what the +1 is later on. And basically the +1 is, girls and boys just want to have fun. So that's the +1. But I'll talk about these, and I wanted you to see what they were, the whole group of them, so you could do it. And if you're at home and you maybe you want to write this down, I don't know, but to see what these are. Okay, so the first one is called Kaizen, and Kaizen's interesting because it's actually something that was an idea that was imported into Japan in 1947 from the Americans. And it was a way to do business, and Toyota picked it up and completely kind of changed the way they did their manufacturing process for cars. But we're going to talk about it in a broader sense. So Kaizen means a kind of continuous improvement or effort in daily life. Now, that sounds very arduous, like, oh, I have to do this thing. But Kaizen isn't like that. It's more like some kind of very little thing that you do. And so it would be like, the example in the video is like, if you have issues around reading, they have this amazing statistics in this thing, something like, I don't know, most people don't even read a book a year, which for me is kind of mind-boggling because I don't know how many books, but certainly I read more than a book a year. So the example was, if you read, let's say, a page a day, I'm sorry, and that's actually fairly easy to do. So it's you kind of create that habit. Now, if you want to read a Buddhist sutra, like the Lotus Sutra or the Nirvana Sutra, you might find it difficult going. And so in that way, actually reading a Buddhist sutra, Mahayana Sutra, that's like, I don't know, some of them are 300 pages long. The Avatamsaka Sutra is like 1,000 pages long. So you might look at that and go, oi, oi, oi. It's like, this sutra is so long, I just can't even imagine sitting down and reading this. But if you read a page a day, then, it would take a while, but you would get through that. And eventually you might even read more than 1 page a day. Or if you wanted to do, some kind of exercise, And it was a difficult thing to do. And you're saying to yourself, well, I have to do 20 of these. But what if you just did one a day? And that was it. So eventually you might work up to 20 or maybe not. But the point is that this effort has a kind of relaxed quality to it. So this is a kind of quality that I think we should cultivate and practice. We just had this conversation back there about Zazen, right? About what's Zazen like? Like how is it if you're thinking or whatever? So maybe you sit down, when you sit down for Zazen, well, my first point was just to come. Like, that's all, just come and put your body in this place. That's number one. And then you don't let the rest of it take care of itself. And maybe you spend the whole period of Zazen thinking about what you're going to have for dinner, or you should have said this, if you'd done that, or whatever it is. Are you asleep? Maybe you're asleep the whole time. But if you're awake for 5 seconds, right, maybe that is Kaizen, right? Like if you did 5 seconds out of 40 minutes, those 5 seconds would accumulate over a period of time. And maybe you'd be doing 10 seconds, or maybe you'd be doing, I don't know, 10 minutes out of 40 minutes. But you couldn't do that if you didn't come and put your body in this place, right? Or at home, doing it at home. Home is harder because home is like, oh, was that the washing machine? Oh, the dog needs to be fed. Oh, I ought to do this. Or, wow, I forgot I left my dirty socks on the floor. Home is harder to do Zazen than coming here. So Kaizen is not about beating yourself up. That's the point I'm trying to make. Kaizen is about making this effort in a way that you realize that in a compounding process, you're able to do this thing in a way that isn't brutalizing yourself. I don't think any of us, especially in practice, we should not do things to brutalize ourselves. If we feel like we're brutalizing ourselves, we're not doing the practice correctly. And if you need to be encouraged not to brutalize yourself, come talk to Jaku or myself or a senior practitioner or somebody who's going to say to you, no, you don't need to brutalize yourself, because that's really not what this is about. It is about making some kind of consistent effort, right? That is helpful. And as I said, your effort might be just getting yourself to the Zendo. Start there. So this is, I often talk about, if I talk about sometimes about practice, I say, it's like building muscles, your practice muscle. So you don't start out with your practice muscle with the hardest thing that you can possibly think to do. Like if you're somebody who's an introvert, you don't say to yourself, oh, I'm going to be the life of the party. Like tomorrow I'm going to a party and that's what I'm going to do. Or the thing I like to use as an example is use your blinker when you're driving your car. So there's this way in which we build muscles by starting slowly. We don't go into the gym and pick up 250 pounds. If you pick up 250 pounds, or at least if I did at the gym, I would be crippled if I could pick it up at all. So it's like this, I think this Kaizen notion is great. It's like you go and you start easy, start small, and maybe you stay small. Don't worry about it. The point is that to me, the point is we don't have to kill ourselves and beat ourselves up in order to do this. And you might even find out that practice isn't your cup of tea. You might find out that you don't like Zen. You might find out that you would rather go for a walk in the woods. So, hey, that's okay, Okay, so that's the first one, is this idea of Kaizen. The second one is Ikigai. And Ikigai is somewhat complicated, and it's a reason for being. So Ikigai is what gives you purpose in life. Like, why do you get up in the morning? Like, what is it that you're doing? It's purpose, it's bringing pleasure, it's fulfillment, and I think it also has to include joy in this. It's something that we enjoy doing. So maybe it's having a garden, maybe it's taking care of your pet, maybe it's whatever it is that you can think of, taking a walk, something that brings you joy. So you don't do this from a sense of duty. This isn't something that you're forcing yourself to do. So it's a kind of enthusiasm, and that these activities create a sense of meaning and enjoyment in your life. So now, the model for this is a Venn diagram, and I guess a Venn diagram is like circles, and then they overlap with each other. So there's a Venn diagram that was made for Ikigai, and I'll tell you what the components of it are. So doing something that you love. So that's one of the circles. Do something that you love. Do something you're good at. So that's an interesting, I think that's a trap in a way. There's something a little sticky about that, doing something that you love. So this is not a should, right? This is not, I should do this thing or I should love this thing. This is like really doing something that feeds your heart and your mind and your body, and that you really enjoy doing it. It's not a should. It's about having kind of a passion for it. And this is a trap, I think, you may not be good at that, right? It's like, isn't it fun to sing? Singing is fun. But the trap of singing is, am I good at it? People say, oh, I can't sing. It's like, no, I can't do that. I don't know how to sing. But it's like, isn't it fun to sing? So we should sing whether we think we're good at it or not. It's like being good at singing doesn't make any difference at all. I mean, hey, we're none of us going to be an Aida. I mean, maybe some of you are going to be opera singers, but the majority of us are not. And so I can't even harmonize. So, but the thing about it is singing is fun. So, or like when you're like, when you have headsets on and you're listening to music and you're singing along, inevitably you're off key. So somebody listening to you out there like, ooh, But the thing about it is it's fun to sing. So you don't have to be necessarily good. I think good is the questionable thing here, but that you really love to do it. And then as you do it over time, maybe you are good. So there's a Japanese kind of story koan, which is mountains and rivers. The first time you see mountains and rivers, normally we just see mountains and rivers, right? So maybe this is like first time we sing or we have ideas about singing. It's like we think, oh, singing is, I can't do singing or whatever. And then the next time, and this is about practice, so the next time you do mountains and rivers, all of a sudden it gets really special. It's like, woo, And so this maybe the whole thing about singing is, oh, I have to be woo, 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 good, about singing. And then the third thing is like, now singing is you and you are singing. Like now that your notion and your idea about it is transformed into, it's just you. How do you sing? How is it, your voice? And that authentic voice, that's good, right? That's singing. And we can't find that authentic voice unless we do this activity, because otherwise we're caught in what we should be doing. And then we say, oh, I can't sing. Or maybe we say, oh man, I am the best singer. I mean, it's like, I'm so amazing. Well, maybe you're not, but it really doesn't matter about that part. So Ikigai, this being good at something is the second aspect. Okay, doing something that the world needs. That can be a trap too. I mean, that can be a trap of like, oh, I have to go out and become a doctor and do Doctors Without Borders. I have to do, I have to be Anderson Cooper. I have to be who do this thing. Well, from a Buddhist perspective, what the world needs is more bodhisattvas. And we are already making this effort to be bodhisattvas. So who are bodhisattvas? What is this thing called? We have what we call the three pure precepts. So they are do good, avoid doing harm, and benefit beings. In our life, we make our best effort to do good, to help, be helpful. We make our best effort not to engage in harmful actions. And we make our best effort to just benefit any situation that we're in. That's bodhisattva practice. Now, we all know that doing that the saying of it is very easy. The doing of it is much harder. But I'll tell you, all of us do this, whether we think we're doing it or not. There are so many things that we do that are good, that avoid harm and benefit beings, that we do not attribute, because especially in Buddhism, if we have some notion about what enlightenment is, we have a story about what that is. So when somebody drops something and you lean over and you pick it up and you hand it to them, that's an enlightened action. It's not a woo-woo thing. It's like, that is doing good. That's bodhisattva practice. So, and I would say every religion, non-religion, whatever, has these kinds of ideas in it. So, so this idea of something that the world needs. And it doesn't have to, it can be just you, and it should be, I think, you in your daily life, not something, some should that you come up with in your mind about how you should be, that you're not, and you beat yourself up about it. And then the next one is to get a reward for it. Now, I also have a problem with the way this is worded, because the actual Venn diagram says to get paid for it. All right. But if we are happy in our life, if we are doing things that we feel that contribute to, that we feel a passion for, we get a reward for that. And the reward for that is that we feel good, that we feel good about what we're doing. The reward for it is that people have gratitude for what we're doing, and we have gratitude and appreciation for others as well. That in and of itself is a reward. It doesn't have to be people giving us things. It doesn't have to be about getting paid for what we're doing. It's like, it's an activity of love. And if something is an activity of love and it's efficacious, online, one of the things when I was looking online for this, somebody said, it doesn't count if you enjoy, being a pathological liar, or if if you're a psychopath and you're out killing people, that doesn't count, as this. But I don't really think I need to say that. There is this way in which, if we are, really doing this thing that we feel this passion about, that out of that is going to come a love, and it's going to be reciprocated. People are going to feel that. So it's like, it just is sort of like a perpetual motion thing of appreciation and gratitude. So that's, that's paid, how we're being paid for it. So that's basically what Ikigai is. And then out of these four things, you supposedly come up with your purpose for your life. I was trying to figure out, when I did this, I thought, what is the purpose of my life? What is the purpose of this, of how I feel about my life? And I guess I feel about practice, about doing this practice, that's the reason, or for my being, right? Now, in a way, this is very Buddhist, because in Buddhism, the reason for being is essentially the three pure precepts, doing bodhisattva practice. that ideally that's the reason for being. And so do we get joy from that? Do we have passion from that? But of course, the enactment of that is very specific in each person's life, right? It's like you can't come up with some kind of like Venn diagram. You can't come up with some kind of a generic thing. So each one of these aspects are personal to us, but it's an interesting thing to think about. It's an interesting question to ask ourselves. Why do I think I'm here? Now, one of the things that when I think about that, I think, well, I don't know what that is, and maybe I don't need to know what that is. It's like, you go to a party or something and somebody says to you, well, who are you? Which means, what do you do? And you say, oh, I'm a doctor. And everyone goes, who's a doctor? And somebody else says, well, I pick up trash. And they're like, oh no, this person's like, some blue collar worker or something like that. Or depending on the environment, it's like you say, I pick up trash, and everybody's like, oh, I love you. You're so perfect. This is the greatest job. And somebody else says, a doctor, So it's like the things that we do, well, wait a minute, I lost my train of thought here. What I wanted to say was, so I'll just back up. What I want to say is sometimes we don't know what it is we're doing in the world. Sometimes we think we know what we're doing in the world, but actually there is this unseen, interconnected thing that's going on, that's like this altruistic cycle of life that we're part of, no matter what we think we're doing, but this actually contributing, and this process is going on, and we are an integral part of that process. So this notion about ikigai, reason for being, is very much about a kind of, in the way it's being presented, is very much like a conscious thing. Like I'm going to look at this and look at these different aspects and say, oh, this is my purpose. So I think there's value in that question. But at the same time, I think we have to have, from a Buddhist point of view, this faith that we are Buddha. And we don't know exactly what it means to say we are Buddha. And it becomes a koan. And this way in which we feel like in our heart, what do we want to do? We want to do this bodhisattva practice. We want to not do good. We want to not create harm. We want to benefit all beings. And how does that manifest in our lives? So there's that aspect too, which is magic, which is something that we cannot see, that we are being asked to have faith in ourselves. This faith, deep faith in this altruistic essential nature that we already are, that the world already is. And so there's that side of it as well that I would add to this notion about ikigai. Do you know how long I've been talking?
It's about 10:13, so I have.
About a half an hour. Okay, I'll do one more and then I'll finish this next time. So the next one is called, probably going to slaughter the Japanese, harahachi-bu. Harahachi-bu. Now, harahachi-bu is actually a Korean concept, and it specifically refers to eating. And it refers to this idea that the logic of it is that you eat 80% full. So the idea is that, it takes 20 minutes for your mind to register how much you've eaten. So you stop at 80%. Well, okay, that's all well and good. But what I would prefer to talk about is harahachi-bu, which is, let's see, there's harahachi-bu is kind of I don't need to get into this, but it's something like harahachi-bu-san. It's not just harahachi-bu, but anyway. So oryoki. So oryoki is the meal bowls, the stacking, nesting bowls that we eat out of when we do a retreat in Zen. And so there are often 3 bowls. Sometimes the priest set has like 5 bowls in it. And there's also an elaborate ritual as you're eating, like you're chanting and you're doing this or that, and you're getting served by other people. When I was Shuso, head monk at Tassajara, I figured that the oryoki meal took an hour and we ate for 10 minutes. So it's a kind of a production, doesn't have to be a big production, but the point of this is that I want to get to is that oryoki means just enough. Oryoki means that what we take, what we receive, what we consume is just enough to sustain our life. And it is the sustaining of our life to practice this life of a bodhisattva. So this is, I would prefer to talk about harahachibu as not about 80% full, but about oryoki. It's about how is it that we sustain our lives. And O in oryoki means the receiver's response to the offering of food. So it's about gratitude. So when we receive an oryoki meal, there have been people in the kitchen who've been cooking this food. There are people who bring the food up to the zendo at Tassajara. Zendo is kind of up the hill. There are people who serve the meal to us. And ideally in oryoki, we take some portion of whatever the food is. So it might be, if you're allergic, you're not expected to take it. But if it's a kind of like or dislike thing, you take some of the food, because this has been prepared and is being offered to you as an offering to sustain your life. It's not just lunch. This is like the whole community, which includes you, by the way, is engaging in this activity of gratitude for the work and labor of others who sustain your practice. So you want to recognize that. Ryo, R-Y-O, or Ryo, that's the amount received. So we take what we need. Now, I would admit, at Tassajara, life can be kind of boring and stressful at the same time. And so you may end up taking a lot more food than you need just because you want to entertain yourself. And sometimes people eat Oreo meal, and then there's this thing called back door, which is at the back of the kitchen. And then everybody goes to the back door and eats peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But in the understanding of the nature of this activity itself, this is what this means, right? This is this measure of the amount to be received. What is it that we actually need to receive? And being thoughtful about that. And then ki means the container of this. What is the container of your life, right? What do we receive? How do we receive this? We can talk about the space in the bowl. We can say that is the lack of inherent existence. That is the total connection. That is everything functioning together, seen and unseen. This is the non-dual aspect of our life. And the container is the form, right? The container is this life, your life, this specific being that you are, your personality, your likes and dislikes, the failures, the successes, the whatever we are in this life, right? The relationships that we have, the characteristics of who we are. That's the form, that's the bowl. So how can we live this life in gratitude with just enough, where we do not waste, where we do no harm? And yet this is not just about the other, it's also about ourselves, taking care of ourselves. So maybe you do need to go to the back door and eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And that's okay too, right? So it's like, it's not black and white. It's not good or bad. It's being aware of who we are and what we need in our lives and nurturing ourselves in a wholesome way and forgiving ourselves and letting ourselves be who we are, not who we think somehow we should be. So next week I'll finish talking about these various aspects. Thank you very much.